and welcome to another episode of Changeling. My breath frosted on the chilly morning air as I stood by the bridge. I should have felt 1,000 times better for sleeping so soundly. I didn't know if I hadn't sleepwalked at all, or if I had just given up after not being able to escape. I had nearly bounced down to the kitchen, but that's where my bubbly mood had ended. Spencer had been seated at the table with his hand in his hands, the picture of dejection. He had looked up when I'd entered, and I'd been pretty shocked by what I saw. He was pale with dark rings under his eyes. Basically, he looked the way I'd felt the past few days. The worst of all was the bitter, furious look he leveled my direction. It was so full of hate, I'd almost taken a step back. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. Then he wordlessly sprang to his feet, grabbed his bag, and as he stormed out, there was nothing I could do or say. I didn't even know what was bothering him so much. The brownie wasn't an issue anymore, so why did he look like that? What else was going on? It wasn't like he was going to talk to me about it, though. I guess that's why I just grabbed my stuff and left as well. Staying in the house was just too suffocating, so I just started walking. And somehow, I ended up down by the bridge again, just staring down the stream to where he disappeared in the trees. At least it was peaceful down here. But somehow, instead of giving me any sort of comfort, it was just making me more depressed. I pulled my hands through my hair and down the sides of my face. More than ever, I just wanted it all to stop. I just wanted things to go back to normal. No witches, no magic, no fairies. I want to go back in time and fix all of this before it ever started. That's what I really wanted, because all the answers in the world wouldn't undo what I'd been done. The problem was, of course, that turning back the clock was impossible. Could only move forward. Though sometimes it felt like I was just being swept along against my will. And the faster I was swept along, the further I was being swept from Spencer. I don't know how to fix this anymore. Though, to be honest, I never did. I looked up and froze when I caught a pair of yellow eyes staring at me. It was that black cat again, sitting on the railing to the bridge, watching me. What do you want? Weird cat. So weird that Ewan would literally stop by Elliot's house when no one was there to talk to it. I narrowed my eyes. Why would Ewan do that unless he wasn't a normal cat? Fairy cat? Cat fairy? I mean, that was a thing. If that's the case, then I'm sick of you too. Though I probably shouldn't say that since it had helped me. The cat, to its credit, just stared back at me, unblinking. It didn't move an inch, not even its tail. For a second, I could almost fool myself that it was a statue. If that thing was some sort of fairy animal, that would mean another fairy was following me around. Then again, consider it might be a familiar or something related to Allie. I hadn't remembered to ask her about it, so I probably shouldn't jump to conclusions. Huh? What was that? Was that singing? A sudden wave of dizziness washed over me and all other sounds muted. My eyelids drooped as a feeling of sleepiness came over me, and I felt myself moving toward the embankment, my feet moving of their own accord. The cat hissed loudly and hopped off the railing into the middle of the street. I was vaguely aware of it. Not safe. It wasn't safe for it to be there. Out in the street, I should make it move, but I couldn't shake the sudden need to get under the bridge. There was something there for me. Something. I had to find it. I struggled to stop myself from going under there again. I finally shook off the strange trains, for lack of a better word. Color and sound bled back into the world as I forced my feet to move sluggishly back to the center of the bridge. My shaking hand reached out and gently touched the cat's head. You should get out of the street, Key. I still didn't even know its name. It didn't look too thrilled about me petting it, but it didn't attack, so that was good. I scooped it up and set it back on the rail, deciding it was time to leave. I should head back to the house and see if I could beat Ellie there. She'll probably be showing up any minute now. Okay, how is she going to beat Ellie if Ellie still has to get past this trench? Like, I get it, okay, maybe I can make it back to the house before Ellie catches up to me. That would make more sense. I glanced back at the cat. Thanks for stopping me. Though I didn't know why it would be a problem to go under that bridge, I couldn't help but feel there was something not right about that place. That strange, overwhelming sleepiness. It was too much like sleepwalking. And I don't know, the way I was just drawn down there so much in the first place, I should just stay away from now on. Oh, really? You think? Unfortunately, I didn't make it quite all the way back before Ellie pulled up the drive. I picked up the pace, jogging toward the car. She hopped out as I got there, and the look on her face wasn't encouraging. See, if that path is just, if that way something is somewhere that Ellie always has to pass through, this right here doesn't make sense at all. Because she would have, out as I got there, and the look on her face wasn't encouraging. And where have you been? I thought I told you not to wander around. Please don't tell me you are coming back from that stupid bridge. I looked away awkwardly. Why do you keep going down there? You know it's not safe. The Spriggan isn't even there anymore. The words fell flat. I mean, given what just happened, the Spriggan was the least of my worries. The Spriggan isn't the only thing lurking around this time of year, and bridges aren't a good place to hang out right now. I perked up at that. Oh, why not? She raised an eyebrow at my sudden willingness to hear her out. What? I'm curious. Because bridges are liminal spaces, places where the barrier around our world sort of thins out, especially this time of year. I'd read about liminal spaces before, but I didn't think they were a real paranormal thing. It's just not safe, that's the point. I'm sorry, Spencer was cranky again and you know how I am. When I'm upset, I go for walks. I get it, but it's not a good time of year for calming walks. I bit back a frustrated sigh. I'd come back here for a fresh start, in a place I loved, but things were worse than ever. It's never been a problem before, you know. Samhain isn't a new thing, happens every year, and I've never had issues before. I don't get why it's so different just because I know about all this stuff now. Ellie sighed and motioned for me to get in the car. We hopped in and she carefully backed out of the driveway and headed out of the neighborhood. Because a lot of things ignore you if they don't think you're aware of them. A lot of things aren't even aware of you until you're aware of them. The more you get drawn into this world, the more dangerous it becomes. Why do you think we keep normal people out? Because they can't defend themselves from the things that will go after them the moment it's apparent a human is aware of all this. Great. For instance, other fairies are going to be way more interested in you now than they were before you could actively take notice of them, hence are concerned about those fairy favors in your house, and that fairy ring. So it wasn't just about my family? Well, I didn't want to scare you, and neither did Shelley, but no, it wasn't. Should I be afraid more of them are going to try to drag me off into the woods? Then again, given my current situation, I might just go into some weird fugue state and wander off with them willingly. Hey, it wouldn't be the first time. From what I understand, you and had the same problem. Really? I don't have all the details. It's just bits and pieces I've heard around the agency. But yeah, why do you think he hates fairies so much? I don't know. I assume he was sort of projected anger due to the head thing? Yeah. Well, at least part of the problem is the fact that they stalked him for a while and tried to drag him off several times. Great. Do you think that's what my sleepwalking is? Some sort of concentrated effort to drag me off to fairy because, rude? Well, it could be. Some fae are pretty good at influencing dreams, and I've read a few things that imply fairies might be able to control sleeping humans. And fairies are pretty notorious for wanting to inject new blood into their race. People like you and Ewan are probably prime targets. Human heritage, life force that hasn't been drained out and weakened by fairy. Oh great, so now they want me as breeding stock. Isn't that charming? What the fuck? Hey, all I'm saying is it's possible they might take notice of you for something like that, so you should be careful. Not like they are known for whisking people away from the humans world. That was true enough. Fairy lore was rife with stories about that kind of thing. That's only one danger, by the way. There are plenty of other things. You know how busy I've been at the agency. I know. Preparing for Samhain and all that. That's right. There are lots of nasty things that wash into town this time of year when the magic currents overflow. You've mentioned the current thingy before, I think. Yeah, I have, because it's important. Magic overflow is literally what the whole fuss is about this time of year. Usually the currents are pretty steady, but during times like Samhain, the solstices, or other important times of year, the Earth produces way more magic energy than usual. The currents become much broader, stronger. Not only does it make it way easier for paranormal things to manifest, there are lots of drifters that show up as well. Those are things that just float around in currents, right? Yes, but this time of year lots more than usual wash in. Oh, and by the way, because Pine Hollow is kind of a weird geographic location, there aren't a lot of outlets for the currents, so things tend to wash in and get stuck here for a while. It's not a super fun time of year for any of us. We have a lot of work to do to keep everyone safe. Isn't that dangerous? It can be, yeah. I mean, there are stray gates popping up everywhere. Liminal spaces, like that bridge, can either turn into a gate to some other place, or just pop you randomly onto a ghost road where you could get permanently stuck. Things that are usually quiet or sleeping start stirring, waking up. There are some pretty nasty things lurking down in the old mines, and we have to keep an eye on it at all. Not to mention the drifters. So I worry about you, especially when you're sleepwalking or taking your usual walks like everything is status quo. I know you're not used to having to exercise this type of caution, but it's really important right now. Just wait until after the holiday. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. I hated the idea I was causing Allie so much worry. I didn't really mean to. I let out a long sigh. I get it, okay? I get it. I'll be careful. I'm just not used to having to be afraid of bridges and shadows and everything. You don't have to be afraid of it all. Just be, careful. I know. Till the holiday's over, I will lock myself in my room and make Mom slide sandwiches through the crack at the bottom. I don't know that you need to go quite that far. You know me, I don't do things halfway. She rolled her eyes. Anyways, why was Spencer upset? Barney still calling problems somehow? I don't think so. I don't know. At this point, I think it's just that the damage is done. He doesn't need more pranks to hate me. I'm sure he doesn't hate you. Yeah, you didn't see the glare I got this morning. I'm sure you guys can still work it out. I'm losing faith, frankly. Well, don't. He's your brother. Eventually, you guys will be able to talk about all this. Well, we'll see, I guess. Ellie and I split up at school as we usually did. She headed straight to the office and I loitered around, trying to decide what I wanted to do. Up to the club room, I guess. Might as well. I hadn't been spending nearly as much time reading and researching as I wanted these days. I should definitely take the opportunity to do it this morning. I dropped a few things in my locker and ended up that way. I was surprised to get there and find the club wasn't empty. Not that it was always empty. I did sometimes see William or Mark, even Ewan once or twice, but people I didn't usually see in the mornings were Danny and Elliot, both of whom were sitting on the sofa chatting when I got there. Danny looked up and grinned when he saw me. Cata Shane! Hey, don't usually see you here in the morning. Don't you have practice or something? He gave me a slightly sheepish smile. Well, looks like I had to quit the team actually. What? It was like the star player or something. I wasn't really into sports at all, but I didn't know enough to know that he was apparently indispensable or something. He just gave me a slight shrug. Things don't always work out the way you want them when you're the only supernatural creature on a team of humans. People were starting to notice that I'm a little different. I didn't exactly know what that meant, but it didn't seem like something I should ask for more details on. It felt like it might be private or something. Still, it kind of sucked. I mean, it was clear he loved competing, he loved being on the team. To have to give it up like that? Hey, you don't have to look that upset. I'm hardly the only person to have given up on a hobby because of this. Did I look upset? You kinda did. You okay? Just kind of a rough morning, I guess. But mostly, I don't know. I guess I've been trying pretty hard to balance all this, and it's a little distressing to hear that sometimes it doesn't work out. Well, that's just how it is. It's not the worst thing. Some others have had slightly more dramatic departures. In some cases, it was our hobbies that got us into all of this in the first place. But really, what kind of hobby does one have that leads to vampirism? Staying out of a skate park way too late at night? He laughed awkwardly. Didn't really think I was going to have to watch out for vampires on the way home. Yeesh. He had been attacked on the way home or something? That sounded sort of terrifying. Yeah, I'm learning that on this side of things, you have to watch out for things you're not used to or watching out for. At least you don't have a massive scar. I wouldn't mind a cool scar. I don't even have the opportunity to acquire cool scars anymore, now that I heal so fast. Besides, you also have people thinking you fought off a bear. Yeah, that's a lot more annoying than you think. Wait, if both are vampires, and just one was born as one, and Elliot got infected, why don't they have the same abilities? I just laughed at the two of them. Wow, sound like they both had pretty dramatic stories to tell. The smile faded slightly. Then again, I guess I did as well if you counted all those disappearances as part of my story. Seems like no one gets an easy entry into this side of things, huh? Unfortunately not. It's a little crowded here today, isn't it? Ewan. I give him a hesitant smile and a wave. I hadn't really seen him since yesterday morning. He frowned slightly then, to my surprise, and a seat in one of the wing-back chairs. Kind of expected him to go straight through the courtyard like he usually did. I usually see you up here in the morning. I could say the same for you. Well, seems like I have some free time these days. Ewan frowned. That rumor was true? Then he rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. Looks like it was. The look on Ewan's face was surprising. He stood up suddenly and practically bolted out of the club and into the courtyard, slamming the door behind him. I stared after him. For just a second there, it seemed like he was going to make an attempt to actually socialize. What was that about? Elliot and Danny shared a look. Bad memories, I guess. Of what? Well, like I said, some people have had far more dramatic exits from their normal lives than me. I glanced toward the door, wondering exactly what that meant. Then again, Ewan seemed pretty private in general. It wasn't like he'd volunteer a story at all in the time I'd known him. Maybe I should just leave it be. I think it's rude to not ask to the person directly, so I'm going to ask about them. Though I really wanted to ask about Ewan and what happened to him, it just didn't feel right to ask someone else. Not if I couldn't ask him directly. If it was something I didn't feel I could ask him, then I probably shouldn't ask anyone else either. Thank you. Instead, I shot Danny a teasing smile. You have a scar that makes people think that you fought off a bear. That sounds amazingly dramatic, like a story I definitely want to hear someday. You too, Elliot. I mean, vampire. Enough said. Elliot grinned at that. I'd love to tell you that story once sometime, though it's actually really boring. I don't even remember much of it. It's a story after the fact that's interesting. How long did it take you to work out that you'd been turned? Elliot turned red and covered his face. Please don't remind me of that. I just laughed. I'll be honest though, I'm also really kind of wanting to hear how you two became friends. I mean, no offense, but you seem really different. He gave me a sheepish smile. Yeah, that story's definitely one for the record books. Yeah, no. Oh, now my interest is definitely piqued. Can be summed up with the words, then was totally not. Then he clapped a hand over Elliot's mouth before he could finish that. Yeah, we're not saying that. I giggle at the two of them. It was sort of funny because they were such utterly normal guys, dealing with crazy things of course, but the way Elliot got embarrassed so quickly and Danny's easy laugh was sort of reassuring in a way. Like, it meant you could still be normal and still be a part of all this, but the one I was really curious about was Ewan. Something had happened to him, something that made him the way he was. I wasn't sure what knowing would really do for me, but I couldn't help but want to know anyway. I wasn't sure if it was because he was Faye and he felt relevant to me, or if it was because he was Ewan. Danny stood and stretched. I think I'm heading down. Only 10 minutes left anyway. I have no idea why you like getting to class early. Helps me, what the fuck else? Helps get me in the right mindset. You two coming? I have something to take care of first, so I'll be down in a few minutes. I'll be right behind you. Just don't be late, either of you. I won't, Dad. Then he left quietly as he exited the club. I pulled out my journal. I wasn't going to have time to read, but I've been laxing keeping notes about all the goings on lately. But at least write some of the recent developments down before I forgot them. So I get things have been pretty rough for you since moving back here, huh? I looked up at him surprised. I figured he had something to do in the library and that's why he stayed. I gave him a pained smile. Well, I guess I'm not the only one. I probably just whine about it more than anyone else. Hey, come on. You're really new to this. You're entitled to whining a little. We've all been there. Danny was pretty upset about quitting the team, you know. I mean, I know it probably doesn't seem like it now, but... No, I mean, I could tell. The only reason he handled it okay at all is, well, he's been dealing with the werewolf thing for a while now, and I guess he kind of saw this coming. Oh. So who's the other vampire? Is it Mark? Man, I don't know. You've been dealing with all this for like a week and a half. No one's going to blame you for being frustrated. I hope you know that. That's good to hear. I've had some moments of wanting to scream and throw things. I know the feeling. I can't imagine you ever screaming and throwing things. Well, being a vampire doesn't come with that much frustration. Not as much as being Faye, probably. I don't know. The whole blood thing seems like it could be kind of annoying. Well, it was weird at first, I guess. You get used to it. So, wanna walk down with me when you're done with whatever you're doing? I laughed slightly. Sure, just writing down some notes from the last few days, keeping track of everything. Went back to writing down everything about the Marani and fairy mains. Yeah, it helps keep things straight. Helps me keep my research on track too. He leaned over, frowning down at the journal. What language is that? Oh, it's not really a language. I mean, not a real one. It's more like a code Spencer and I came up with as kids. Well, I mean, it was mostly me. I guess it kind of started as a twin language, just between Spencer and I. Whoa, seriously? I didn't even think that was a real thing. Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly common, but it's a real thing. Anyways, as we got older, I started to develop this written code for it. Spencer apparently forgot it all a long time ago, but since I still remember it, I thought it might be useful for my research journal, because if my mom ever found and read all the crazy things I'm writing about, she'd definitely wonder about my sanity. That's pretty smart. Thanks. The door to the library slammed open again, and Ewan stalked in. He froze when he saw Elliot and I bending over my journal, then frowned at us both. What are you two still doing here? I raised an eyebrow. He was in a lovely mood. Not sure what made you king of the club room, but we're just finishing up something, and we're heading down now. Shut the journal and slid my backpack before I stood. Elliot followed suit and we started out. We chatted about nothing special as we went down, or rather, I listened to Elliot chat about nothing and didn't contribute much myself. It's kind of nice since, well, giving you a much needed smile. I was surprised to find when we got to literature that Ewan had been behind us the entire time, apparently, because he stepped in right after us, leaving me even more surprised. Wait, this is your first period class? Wait, no, it made perfect sense. Ewan hated literature and always skipped first period. Even Mrs. Roberts had been yelling at him for skipping, and I knew he had afternoon classes with Spencer. What? Mind blown. He shuffled his feet a little awkwardly, looking away. Glad you could join us today, Mr. Croft. She laced her hands together and looked across the class, gaze landing on Mark Lowe, who was one of the only ones without a partner. She then flicked her gaze my way. Ellie, would it be so kind as to relocate and partner with Mark? What? Mark just let out a soft sigh, the only indication he wasn't pleased with this turn of events. I feel a reticent Shakespearean expert might be more inclined to stay with us if he has a more engaging partner. The class tittered softly as I felt my face go hot. What the heck did that mean? Seriously? Come. Ewan will benefit from having Miss... Wow, okay. They didn't put my name. Miss Cata as his partner, and I think the entire class will benefit from hearing you and Mark read Shakespeare together. Man. He shot me a distressed look as he relocated to Mark's side, leaving an empty desk next to me for Ewan to slink over to. What the heck? Was this more of her attempts to stick cryptics together? Did Ewan have to be with me because we were both Fae or something? No, that would be weird. And why? Sorry, I had to switch partners because of me. He mumbled the answer, so I barely heard him over the other chattering in class. I didn't get a chance to answer. Mrs. Roberts clapped sharply and instructed us all to get busy. Ewan, unsurprisingly, didn't have his playbook with him, so he had to share mine. His reading was really hesitant at first, but not in the same way as Elliot, who stumbled over the complex dialogue and clearly didn't understand the meaning of what he was reading sometimes. Ewan seemed to have reluctance to actually just say the lines. But I was too distracted by the fact that he'd shown up, that he was even in this class. I guess Mrs. Roberts' threat worked on him. It was so weird sitting next to him in a class like this. I found myself studying his profile as he read. He was staring down so intently at the playbook that I couldn't help but wonder why it showed up so suddenly, especially after so long skipping. And when he got told off the other day, that didn't seem like it really made much difference. But now, here he was. He turned his head toward me for just a split second. I stared up into his eyes, struck by how pretty they were. One a warm, deep brown, and the other blue flecked with faint green. I realized I was staring again, and suddenly my face heated up, and I looked away quickly. You're lying. Right, sorry. I said I wasn't going to stare at him. Somehow, he didn't seem as bothered this time. Then again, I wasn't staring at his neck, thinking about how weird he must be to be a Dullahan. I'm sure that made a difference. Even so, I made sure to keep my gaze firmly on my playbook for the rest of the class. Before I realized it, everyone was packing up and getting ready for the bell to ring. I started getting my things together as well, shooting Ewan an uncertain smile. You're good at this. I mean, lots of people struggle with Shakespeare. I have a lot of experience. Oh, the bell rang just then, and he looked away awkwardly as he stood. I'll talk to you later. He left quickly after that, leaving me staring after him. I let out a sigh and headed to my next class, not looking forward to seeing my brother there. It was pretty stupid to dread seeing him as much as I did, but it didn't matter much anyway, since he basically ignored me the entire time. I returned the favor and ignored him as well. Both classes we sat a few feet from each other, but it felt like we were on different continents. I couldn't help but remember when the staff would try to keep us in different classes because we'd cause so much trouble if we were together. Passing notes, giggling, and if Allie was with us too, the teachers dreaded having the three of us in class together. But it felt like ages ago, like a team I'd never be able to get back, especially not now. I just pushed those thoughts away and I tried my best to focus on class, because focusing on anything else was too frustrating. By the time lunch hit, I was feeling a bit better. School, as much as it was just school, kind of had a way of calming me down. Maybe because being in class made everything feel normal again. I stopped by my locker, then headed to the cafeteria. I caught sight of a familiar head of pink hair and smiled to myself as I picked up the pace to catch up. And I saw another familiar face on the way there. Cata Shane, I was hoping to see you today. She shot me a shy smile. I was hoping to see how things worked out last night. Oh, it was fine. I assume. I woke up in my bed for a change. That's a relief. I'm not sure whether I tried to leave or not, but it's a success for now, I guess. Cata Shane! I looked up as he barreled towards us, apparently having caught sight at some point. He beamed at Shelley as well as he joined us. Hi, Shelley. Oh, you two know each other? Of course, I know everyone in the club. Anyway, do you want to have lunch with me today? So hard to say no to that smile. I think he would be unpolite to invite her as well. I think. I don't know. I don't know, actually. I mean, is it rude to just get a third wheel, or should we wait for whoever's inviting to invite the other person as well?
Like, what is the etiquette here?
I think the invitation should come from Drayson, now that I'm thinking about it. I wasn't sure I wanted to have lunch with Drayson again, to be honest, especially if it meant another lunch with Brenna. It wasn't exactly the world's most pleasant lunch companion, and, well, it was a little surprising, but I found myself kind of wanting the normalcy of lunch with Danny and the others. But Drayson was giving me such a hopeful look. I gave him a wary smile. Sure, I'd love to. Couldn't bear to say no, especially since he wasn't Drayson I had a problem with. He beamed at us both. Shelly, you'll come too, right? To my surprise, Shelly also hesitated, though I doubt it was for the same reason as me. But apparently I wasn't the only one who couldn't say no to that public smile. Sure, I will. At the courtyard? Yes, come on, let's head up. Shelly and I shared awkward smiles as we fell into step beside him and headed towards the stairs. As the noise from the cafeteria faded, Drayson chattered aimlessly as we walked, telling us about the upcoming art exhibit being organized by the art club, which he was apparently a part of. I perked up a little at that because, hey, I did the art thing too. I was curious. But I found myself a little distracted by the skittering noise that seemed to follow us down the empty hall. Soon, I wasn't paying attention to a word he said. What is that? I glanced back several times, and when I did, the skittering would stop. It felt like we were being followed. Lord Shane, is everything alright? Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm just, I looked away a little embarrassed. I'm just not used to this place yet. What? Used to what? Oh, I'm sure for you guys just second nature, but ever since I joined the club, it feels like, seeing weird things around the school. Usually just out of the corner of my eye. Or I feel like things are following me around. Or seeing things out in the parking lot, lurking in the trees. I shrugged helplessly. It's all still a little weird for me. Well, there are quite a lot of things that lurk around here. It's not just a haven for those of us that can blend in. Most of the things here are fine, I mean, they're not dangerous. Mostly isn't reassuring, just so you know. It's a bit hard to put up a strong, solid barrier at the school. It's a public building with a lot of traffic from humans and cryptics alike, all of whom have varied, complex motivations that fluctuate on a daily basis. There are barriers in place to protect us all from mundane problems and violence, but nothing that is a blanket obstacle to keep our stray cryptics. But it's okay. I mean, some places are protected, like the club. It's really safe in there. Phyllis and the other staff clear out anything that might pose a danger. Everyone who interns with the agency helps with that as well. Pretty surprised to have students doing that. Students outnumber the teachers by quite a lot after all. It's like having prefects, except, no one knows about them, except us. Right, prefects. Except they were interning for a secret government agency and working on keeping supernatural creatures from causing trouble. I cast another glance over my shoulder at the invisible skittering stalker. I hated this feeling of constantly being followed or watched these days. It was really starting to get to me. I was relieved to not find Brenna lurking in the courtyard when we got there. Drayson offered to go get lunch for us all, but I felt bad letting him do it alone and offered to tag along. We left Shelly in the courtyard and headed to the murder. I'd been inside before, and it seemed normal enough, but I heard rumors. It was some kind of magic cafe or something, run by Corvin's family of wizard siblings. I'd even met some of them before, so it was kind of hard to see it as some kind of magical cafe. It looked really normal inside, kind of cute and quirky, but I guess it'd have a kind of strange vibe to it. Actually, the murder does a lot of work for the paranormal community. He was speaking quietly to me as we waited on our order. They solve problems for people and find information. They're really, really good at it too, but some people are kind of nervous about them because, you have to pay them in things. Well, it's pretty normal to pay people for their help. They don't take money, Then, what do they take? I didn't get a chance to ask. A blonde woman brought our bags to the front and slid them across the counter towards us. I had never seen her before. Our eyes met as I took one of them, and for a split second, the two of us froze, looking at each other curiously. I noticed the slightly pointed ears right away, but it was really the eyes that held my attention. She felt so strangely familiar in that moment, but I knew I'd never met her before. She raised an eyebrow, and her lips curved up very slightly. Have a nice day. Thanks, Kaya. The odd moment passed, and Drayson was already walking away. I glanced back at Kaya once as we left the cafe. She was leaning over the counter, watching us go. Weird. I was pleasantly surprised to find Ellie waiting for us back at the courtyard. And Ewan. When I saw him, there was an odd little flutter in my stomach that I tried very hard to ignore. Instead, I grinned at Ellie as we headed back to the table. I didn't know you'd be here today. Well, I usually have lunch up here. It's a lot quieter than the cafeteria. That it doesn't smell like cold socks is also a bonus. I smiled slightly, feeling strangely awkward after what happened in literature. Even though literally nothing happened in literature, we just read together. Grayson and I set the bags down on the table. Hey, I also wasn't expecting to see you. He shrugged. I eat here too. A lot. You weren't here the last time I was. He flushed slightly. I was busy. Oh, you've been up here before. She had lunch with me and Brenna. Yeah, that was an experience. Yikes, I can imagine. She's not that bad. I mean, sometimes. Yeah, it's just the rest of the time that's the issue. Just like a proper cat. A cat? I slid into the empty space between Ellie and Ewan. She's a cat okay, how do I read this? She's a Kate Shide. Shidey. Shadada. Man, I don't know. You didn't know? No, actually. I thought she was just some generic fairy. She was just a word for fairy, usually in Irish and Scottish fairy lore. Kate was just, well, cat. So basically it was cat fairy. I'd seen a few mentions of cat fairies before, but I hadn't read too much about them. Just that they were large. Black. Whoa, wait. Large black cats with white spot. That cat was Brenna? Was that cat Brenna? Oh my god, that would make perfect sense in a way. But then, why was she always at Elliot's house? But then Ewan had been there to see the cat. I can barely see the gears turning. What on earth are you thinking about, Shane? I jumped when she said that. Nothing. I mean, I looked away. I was just thinking it was kind of weird imagining her as a cat, but she kind of does act like one sometimes. I didn't want to broach the subject of Brenna being that cat. Not here. Shot Ewan a sidelong look, but he was busy rifling through the bags for what was apparently an extra sandwich meant for him. He wasn't even paying attention to me. But if Brenna was that cat then, that meant she was the one that had been looking out for me at night. Or was it her and Ewan? He had been there that day to see her. He had shown up by the bridge that day, shown up the day Spencer tried to ditch me. Then Drayson and Brenna followed me around after that incident with Cara. Were the three of them looking out for me? I mean, if so, I was grateful. Kind of. Without Brenna's help, I'd have wandered off at least twice. But it felt weird being followed so much. But why not just talk to me? Why be all secretive about it? Was that some weird fairy thing? I let out a soft sigh. Maybe I was overthinking it all. It could just be a coincidence that Ellie's distressingly smart cat that followed me around and that Ewan liked to talk to looked exactly like the cat form of the type of fairy Brenna was. Yeah, that seemed totally reasonable. Hello? Shane? What? Sorry. Jeez, I said your name like 4 times. Just think about something. Sorry. What? I was just asking about your research. I mean, if you found anything useful or interesting yet. No, not really. I tried to drag myself out of the realm of conspiracy and theorizing about Elliot's cat and into the conversation at hand. I was kind of distracted for a few days, so I didn't make a lot of progress on that front. What are you researching, if you don't mind my asking? No, it's okay. I'm just looking into fairies in general. But I guess that ultimately, I'm looking for some hints about some things that happened to Spencer and I a few years ago. You mean when you saw that murderer in the bog? I glanced his way, a little confused. He doesn't actually believe. He was staring at me in rapt attention, eyes really wide. No, of course he believes it. Drayson, there was no murder, Drayson. It's just a rumor, right? Really? How many times have I said you have to stop believing everything you hear? He looked up, tapping his fingers together as if counting. He even sighed softly, a slight smile coming to his lips. You don't have to actually count them all. It was amazing to me how patient he was with Drayson. No sarcasm or teasing at all, just some sort of gentle guidance. Like a big brother, really. He was sort of cute. Anyway, I'm really glad there wasn't a murderer. Me too, believe me. If there was, I probably wouldn't be here. But is that what you're researching then? The thing where you disappeared? Yeah, basically, among other things. Me going missing, Spencer losing the sight in one of his eyes, if they're really connected to me being Fae, and if so, how? It's not really an easy thing to find information on. You know that fairies have been known to blind mortals that see them, right? Spencer originally claimed he saw me, unless you're implying I blinded him. Though it wasn't like there weren't some people who thought that, apparently. Spencer also said you were a monster, if you'll remember. I'm not sure he knows what he really saw back then. The table was silent for a minute. If your brother saw fairies back then, fairies other than you, does that mean he has some sort of sight-based ability? He's not in the club, so I thought he wasn't a cryptic. To be honest, that's something we're not totally sure about yet. It's not something we're going to have time to delve into until after Slamheim. Just because you saw fairies once doesn't mean anything. Humans do sometimes catch sight of them on accident. I don't know that it was just once. I've been thinking a lot about what you said that first day in the club, Allie. I think Spencer and I both used to see them a lot as kids, but it's actually pretty common for children to be more perceptive to the paranormal when they're young. 12 is pretty old to still be hanging on to that kind of skill though. I just wonder what it was he really saw that day. Maybe you should just ask him. I laughed dryly at the totally sincere way he suggested that. If only it was really that simple. You should know that we can't just talk to other people about what we are. You, Cata, Shane, and I, more than some other people in the club. Yeah, that was true. I've been told just how dangerous it was to tell my family about all this, specifically because fairies were involved. That didn't mean Drayson was wrong. The easiest way to find out what happened would be to just ask him. Too bad I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to do that. I was glad that my afternoon course load was pretty light. After that heavy conversation and sort of weird epiphany during lunch, it was pretty hard to focus. I spent half of my study hall going over all the evidence I had that Elliot's cat was indeed Brenna. I spent the other half contemplating how weird it was that one of my classmates was potentially another classmate's cat. Then I spent free period trying to work out how to ask you and if Brenna was Elliot's cat and if they'd been watching over me and did he know about sleepwalking? Did he know why I was sleepwalking? And why, if he knew all those things, wouldn't they just talk to me about what was going on? And what was with fairies and all the damn secrecy about everything? Was it just one of the weird compulsions Allie mentioned, or did they have a reason for keeping me in the dark? Or did they not know, and were they just being generous and looking out for me because I was some kind of idiotic fairy newbie who couldn't watch her own back? I had no idea. I wanted to talk to him about it so badly, I didn't even know where to begin. But I was pretty glad when school was over. Even though he just spent another hour in the club ruminating over it all, as if thinking super hard about it would somehow help me figure out what was going on, I finally got fed up sitting there by myself and decided to just go outside and get some fresh air. In the end, I was just going to have to talk to Ewan about it. Brenda probably wouldn't answer me, even if I somehow cornered her. And I don't know, blurting out a question about whether she was someone's pet seemed like a really good way to get my eyes clawed out either way. I flopped on the front steps of the school and laid back, staring up at the sky. What did it matter anyway? The most likely scenario, even if that cat was Brenna, was that she was just lurking around by coincidence and happened to see me. She didn't exactly seem like a charitable angel, but she was clearly a more complicated person than I realized. And wasn't that the first thing I read about fairies? They were mercurial, for all I know. She was just helping me on a whim. And Ewan had helped me a few times too, but wasn't that just because we were classmates? There didn't have to be a deep meaning to it. I felt myself being lulled to sleep by the warm sun and the sound of wind through the trees. I kind of didn't want to move, but at the back of my head, I knew that it would be stupid to sleep out here. I opened my eyes and forced myself to sit up. The first thing I noticed when I sat up was a dark figure leaning against a tree on the far side of the parking lot. I wasn't even surprised to see him standing there watching me. Talk. Well, now was as good a time as any to see what the heck those three were up to. I stood and brushed myself off before shouldering my bag and heading his way. To his credit, he waited for me. I half expected him to try and pull a Brennan-type disappearing act. But no, I made it all the way to him, where we just stood looking at each other awkwardly. Were you sleeping? I wasn't asleep, just thinking. How long were you standing here watching? He shifted awkwardly. Not that long. I saw you and wasn't sure what you were doing, that's all. You could have come over to say hi. If you were sleeping, I thought it was better just to keep an eye on you. I don't need people keeping an eye on me from a distance. If you're sleeping in the school parking lot, you might. Very funny. I wasn't sleeping. Where's your ride? Not back yet. Want me to take you home? I mulled it over for a second, then pulled out my phone. Just let me tell Allie. Hey, Ewan is taking me home. Again? He offered. Ooh, please. I rolled my eyes and put my phone away before shooting Ewan a smile. I guess we're good to go. He shoved his hands in his pockets and led me over to his bike. He handed me the extra helmet and busied himself strapping down his bag. I hopped on while strapping the helmet on, feeling like I was kind of becoming a pro at this. He climbed up in front of me and I leaned forward, setting my hands on his waist like usual. Somehow it felt awkward all over again. Ready? I wrapped my arms tightly around his waist. I'm ready, and we were off. I still wasn't used to the cold, and honestly, it would only be another few weeks before I'd be completely refusing to ride on this thing with him. It was already getting to be too dang cold. I had no idea if he kept riding it all winter, but not me for sure. Though, The implications of me assuming it continued to offer to drive me were kind of strange. I hopped off the bike with minimal stumbling and pulled off my helmet to see Ewan smirking at me. I'm getting better. Stop laughing. Oh, I'm not laughing yet. We both turned at the sound of the cat hopping up onto our bins. She peered at two of us curiously before she said to grooming your paws. I shot Ewan a sidelong look. Not saying hi today? To the cat? Is it just a cat? His eyes went slightly wide. How did you... I just shrugged. I may not be a math genius, but I can still put two and two together. Do you guys follow around every new fae that shows up at the school, or is it just me? There aren't usually any new fae that show up. You're the first. Whose idea was it to keep an eye on me? Whoa, hey, I think you're misunderstanding. We never meant to stalk you or anything. Brenna just said she thought you were in danger, that's all. I have no idea what she's been up to, but I've just been keeping an eye out at school because They looked around helplessly. I mean, I know what it's like to be in your shoes. You have absolutely no idea what it's like to be in my shoes. He opened his mouth to respond, but snapped it shut, looking away. I smirked slightly. I mean, there's no way my shoes would fit you. Look at those feet. They're huge. Like, boat size. You couldn't get them in my shoes if you tried. It's true. The smile was still playing on his lips when he gave me an earnest, slightly worried look. You aren't mad then? I leaned against his bike. How can I be mad? I mean, it's weird feeling like people are watching me or following me around. But Brenna's helped me out several times already. That thing where you go out at night? Yeah, I figured you knew about that by now. You've helped me out a few times, too. I mean, that morning with Spencer and everything. And then that weird thing with Kara. Look, I'm not mad. But just like today, why stay at a distance and watch me without saying anything? It feels weird. Just come talk to me about it. I'd feel a lot less weird about it if you guys weren't being so secretive. If you're worried about me, tell me. If you know what's going on, tell me. If I'm really one of you, stop treating me like an outsider. I didn't intend to make you feel that way. I just didn't want you to feel like this was all going to have some sort of inevitable bad end for you. You're not like me. Your situation isn't going to end up like mine. I didn't know how to respond to that. It wasn't like the situation was at the end of the world, but how could I say that without trivializing what we went through? And that was when my charming mother made her entrance. The front door opened and she stepped onto the porch waving happily. Oh Lord, I didn't realize she was home. Cata Shane? Ewan, I'm telling you this is a friend. You should definitely run. What? Mom came towards us with a smile that most certainly meant trouble. Who is this? The nice boy that keeps giving you a ride? Nice boy. Well, the nice part is still up for debate, but he has given me a ride a few times. Cata Shane, honestly. What? You can see how much leather he's wearing. He definitely casts a dubious light on his niceness level. She rolled her eyes at me and held out an hand to Ewan. Anyone who can put up with this bratty child definitely must be nice. Ewan was sniggering softly. Anyway, he was just leaving. So soon? Why don't you come in and have a snack? I love meeting Cata Shane and Spencer's friends. Mom, a snack? We're not in elementary school. Ewan was giving me the sort of amused smile that I was desperately trying to ignore. Then come in for a cup of hot chocolate? I'm sure it's cold on that motorcycle of yours. Look, your hands are completely freezing. Why don't you come inside and warm up a little before driving home? Mom, no, stop. He doesn't want to come inside. How do you know? He hasn't answered yet. She gave me a completely innocent smile that I wasn't buying for a minute. I know what you're doing. Just stop. I'd love to, but I really have to. Nonsense, it's just for a few minutes, just long enough to warm you up a little. She took his arm and started pulling him towards the house. Oh no, she captured him. He showed me a helpless look as she pushed him towards the front door. I just laughed awkwardly, watching my mom drag Ewan, who was twice her size, into the house with absolutely no trouble. I was a little worried about what might happen, but what could we do at this point? Cata Shane, you should stay. I gave him a teasing grin as I caught up. Not that there's any escape for you now or anything. Mom didn't pay attention to that as she shooed Ewan up the porch and into the foyer. Mom left Ewan and I in the entry as she went to put the kettle on. As soon as she was gone, I shot Ewan a slightly amused look. Now's your chance to escape. If you run, she probably won't be able to catch you before you make it to your bike. This isn't funny, you know. He lowered his voice. What if something happens? I realized for the first time just how nervous he actually was. Without thinking, I slipped my hand in his and gave it a squeeze. His palm was clammy and damp. Then we'll deal with it. There's no reason to leave just because you're worried about that. We'll be fine. He didn't look like he believed me at all, but I just didn't want him to have to leave because he was worried about something happening. It sounded to me like he isolated himself way too much because of that already. I kept a tight grip on his hand and as I pulled him into the kitchen, and after a moment he finally tightened his grip on mine as he followed. Just have a seat. I already put the water on. Ewan and I shared a look as we both sat at the island. So, Ewan, do you live here in Raven's Glade? I do. What do your parents do? My parents operate a bakery in town. Really? A bakery? How cute. Do you ever help out there? Help out on afternoons or weekends, sometimes during the week if we're really short-staffed. How responsible. I should stop by sometime. Is it that little bakery down on the square then? Mom, no, please don't go harass Ewan's family. I don't want to harass them, I just want to go say hi. Then don't go say hi, it's never a good thing when parents get together. I'm in agreement there. Oh, you kids always act like everything is so dire when parents are involved. She slipped two mugs of hot chocolate towards us and leaned on the counter, smiling at Ewan from over the sink. So what do you like to do in your free time, Ewan? I assume you don't just drive that bike around looking cool all the time. Oh God, Mom. I don't do much. I work on my bike. What if nothing's wrong with your bike? What then? Nothing in particular. Really? No hobbies at all? Not anymore. I glanced his way, frowning slightly at that catch of his voice. Mom, Ewan's in the same club as Allie and me. I want to try and rescue him from her interrogation. Somehow the mood had dropped a little bit, as it actually seemed to when someone touched on something that might have to do with his unique ability and current situation. Oh? Have you always been interested in the paranormal? Ewan looked up sharply. No, not really. I don't like it all that much at all, actually. Then, why are you in the Paranormal Mysteries Club? He looked away awkwardly, fidgeting with a scup of hot chocolate. I didn't have anything else to do anymore. I used to be in the drama club, but I had to stop. Well, I had worked that much out, but I guess I could guess why he stopped. Why did you have to stop? Mom, enough. Come on, this is an interrogation. Sorry, honey, I was just curious. Why don't I get you something to have with your chocolate? I think we have some muffins. She turned away and I cast a sidelong look Ewan's way. I knew that was a sensitive topic, and she just barreled in like that. Not that it was her fault, but yeah. Ewan was staring down into his mug. That look on his face was so desolate. I could only imagine how he must have felt to give up something he loved because of all this stuff. It was clearly something he wasn't over, and who could blame him, really? Ewan's head drooped forward slightly, and I nudged him worriedly. You okay? I was whispering while Mom's back was to us. Ewan didn't respond. I knew that his ability sort of went a bit weird in the afternoon and also when he was upset. Ewan? His head slipped forward a little more, and he abruptly jumped up and staggered awkwardly out of the kitchen. Mom turned around curiously. Is everything okay? I wasn't sure what to do. If I went after him and made a big deal of it, Mom might follow and see something she shouldn't. Maybe I should just distract her? I think it's fine. Maybe it was just a call or something. There was a heavy thump from the foyer. I jumped up and headed that way. I'll check on him. Ran to the foyer to find Ewan sprawled on the floor, with his head kind of not attached. Greenish smoke was oozing out. I heard to him and fretted for a moment for awkwardly picking up Ewan's head, feeling a little faint. I swallowed hard and tried to focus. I made some attempt to reattach. I didn't know if he was even conscious anymore. His eyes were closed. This is so weird. Cutter, is everything... I froze. Mom froze. I was crouching next to Ewan with his head, still starting my hands. Oh. This is hilarious. I'm really liking this a lot. That was all she said before her eyes rolled back and she hit the floor. Let the moms hit the floor. Let the moms hit the floor. Well, I guess I have to forgive the whole my hands were full thing now. At any rate, I had to try to get the situation before she woke up, and then I'd figure out to deal with her having seen that. I just sort of set Ewan's head down, close to his neck, not something I'd ever thought I'd have to do for anyone. Then I went to check on my mom. Fortunately, she hadn't hit anything on the way down. I rolled her over and kind of awkwardly flapped my hands as I tried to figure out exactly what to do about this. Behind me, there was rustling. I really hoped that was Ewan, getting himself back together, literally. I hazarded a glance back. Ed wasn't quite in place just yet. Okay, that's weird. I quickly turned back around, feeling a little bit like seeing him with his head off was somehow the equivalent of catching him with his pants down. It was just weird. Everything okay back there? Just give me a minute. His voice was a little slurred and hoarse. It also had a strange echoey quality to it, Was the chair of this voice even worth still considering? I mean, which part had his vocal cords anyway? Weird thoughts. Really weird thoughts. Mom stirred and laughed out a soft moan. Panicked, I turned to Ewan and kind of shooed him into the nearby ponder room. He vanished in that direction as Mom came to me and I helped her up. Killer Shane? What on earth? Oh, I saw. Ewan fell. It was a dizzy, and he fell. Then he walked in and passed out too. I think something's wrong with the hot chocolate. Is it expired, maybe? Because that's a believable excuse. I smiled at her disarmingly. She looked around the foyer, confused. Ewan is in the bathroom collecting himself. I think he might be throwing up. Oh dear. She got to her feet carefully with my help. Is he alright? I think he'll be. She seemed to have bought that. I should probably throw the hot chocolate out then. Did you drink any? No, I didn't have any yet. Phew. It was pretty amazing how people were able to rationalize the irrational as long as you gave them a little seed of truth. Mom disappeared back into the kitchen, and I peered into the family room where Ewan was waiting. I quickly motioned him out to the front door. It looked like his head was back in place now. Are you going to be okay? I think so. I'm sorry for all this. I shouldn't have come in. No, that's not. I need to go. He practically ran down the driveway and soon disappeared down the street. I watched him worriedly, hoping he would be okay. I hated that something like that happened again. I hated that he couldn't even have hot chocolate with a friend without his stupid fairy ability ruining it. No wonder he's always upset. I made a mental note check-in with him tomorrow to make sure he was alright. In the meantime, I went to go to make sure my mother was alright and that she'd really accepted my weird explanation. Because the last thing I needed was her freaking out about my headless friend for the next forever. Okay, that was hilarious. Like, I found that really, really funny. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.